I had a failed business before a successful one. The guy in front of me who's been there, come back around it again, taken time to reflect on it, but then found a way of going again. As a father of a son, it's, you always think you're doing it right or you're trying to get it right, but some bits in that, in manhood, and it's by Steve Biddulph, if you're interested in the book. He also wrote a book called Raising Boys, and he's looking at what it means to be a man and how masculinity has been skewed over the years and what's really important for young boys and young men to have in their lives. And it's really opened my eyes. A bit of imposter syndrome that I carry. Elon Musk puts his trousers on the same way I put my trousers on every day. So if Elon Musk can get there, so can you. So welcome to the People Performance Podcast with me, Martin Johnson, and me, Paul Tennison. Paul, welcome. Thank you. You nervous? Yes. First podcast? Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Paul, welcome to the podcast. We're going to spend 30 minutes talking to you about your recent experience at the T2 Leadership Retreat, which, by the way, I love spending 3 days with you, and I know you thoroughly loved it as well. But before that, just for the listeners, like, who are you, Paul? We go back. I know you a little bit. You're whole born and bred the same as me.
Yes.
But what's your background and what brought you to this point where before you decided to go on to the retreat?
Okay, so we're very similar characters, I think, and whether you'll agree or not, I don't know. But I just see myself as I'm just a kid from an estate in Hull, works hard, from hardworking parents. I've spent probably 20, nearly 30 years in construction, in different guises, on my tools, working through senior management roles. I'm currently at Hull University now, working as the Associate Director for Estates Development and Strategy. But I've run my own business about 10 years ago, so I dipped out of corporate life into running my own business. That was a bit of a learning curve. We don't always get success, but you bounce back from it. So I had to dip out of that, went back into the working world, and then that sort of pushed me into that leadership. Sort of that motivated me to inquire what leadership was about and how human people tick. So I'm now heading up campus development and strategy at Hull University. Got a great team of people in there. But in the background as well, I also run another business that I've been in charge of for about 2 years, which is a mile apart from construction and estates.
Well, let me come in there, Paul, because a couple of things. We are cut from the same cloth. We both grew up on a council estate, working class to middle class, let's say, hardworking parents, not much, but that desire to do better and have better when we're older. I resonate with that as well. What I like about the intro is you said, you've gone into construction, you've worked for companies, and then you broke off and had a go. You had a good go and then decided that actually, let me go back into the world of work. Not every business turns out a success, but that has not deterred you, because not only have you gone on to therefore be successful in your role as a director, but you're now currently getting back on the horse and starting to build your own business again. Now that takes resilience and guts. It takes bounce back ability. It takes for you to be able to acknowledge a failing rather than be embarrassed by it or be angry at it. Learn what the learnings of why, and then come back stronger. And I admire you for that.
I think there's a lot of that in there as well, though. There was the anger, there was the failure. Probably personal failure for me was massive. I'm not used to failing in life. Not that I'm uber successful, but I'm good at what I do. Yeah, in that comfort zone of what you've learned to do over your adult life. And that was the hardest bit, I think, for me. So it did take a while. It wasn't like, right, 2 months after that business, I'm going to go again. It was steady the ship, get things back in order. What's priority in our lives as a family? What do we need to just get by? And then start building again from there. Because if you've got that little itch inside you've got to go and do it, haven't you?
You have.
But it took a while to come back round, and it had to be right based on the learnings of what didn't go right that time and where are we now and what do we need to look at.
Yeah, I love that, mate. And credit to you. There'll be loads of people out there who can resonate with that. And if you have had a go and it's not worked out, first sort of lesson from this podcast already in the first few minutes is reflect on it, learn from it, don't give up. right? Let's go again.
Yeah.
Not many people know this, Paul, but I had a failed business before a successful one. You know, when I first left the military, I started a flood protection business with my father. And it was when all the height of the floods in the early 2000s, and the aim was we'd go around homes and houses and house builders, and we'd install flood protection units around the doors and the air bricks and stuff like that. And it was literally like, we're going to clean up, and the market wasn't ready for it. A standard came out where you had to have the British Kite Mark approved for all your products. We didn't have that in our products. It was going to cost a fortune to get it,
Yeah.
and we quickly realised we'd bitten off more than we can chew, and we had to close it down. And so, yeah, I've had the same experience where you go, maybe I'm not cut out for business. Maybe I've made bad decisions. Maybe should I have seen this coming?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I started T2 10 years ago, I had all of this in my mind, and I thought, no, just learn from it, and let's make sure we get it right this time.
So I don't know if you remember, but when your first book came out, you came and did a talk at the university.
Yeah.
I was right in the depth of getting through that first business failure. And I think it's the conversations that we had then. You told that story at that seminar, and I'm sat there in the room thinking, right, it's maybe not all doom and gloom, because you can see it in front of you. Here's a guy in front of me who's been there, come back round it again, taken time to reflect on it, but then found a way of going again.
Love that, mate. And by the way, I didn't even remember that I'd told that story in the university, that because I don't often, not that I'm shy about it, embarrassed about it, but I don't often talk about it. It's sort of such a distant memory. But people look at success, and they look at, say, T2, and they look at the journey we're on. It hasn't come easy, and it's not first time, right? And so bounce back ability, resilience to be able to go again, vulnerability to admit and put your hand up and go, "Oh, that's fine, it's part of my journey." It's a wonderful thing. So if anybody's out there, absolutely take the first 5 minutes of this.
Yeah, the mantra we have in our family is never give up. And that comes from a different story, which I think we talked about.
The mantra in our family is don't be a victim, which we'll come back to. Right. So the retreat. So fast forward to today. You decided, and I know for a few years you'd said, Martin, I really want to try and get there. Couldn't make it for whatever reason. This year you decided to take the step, and you said, right, I'm coming to the T2 retreat. And it was in May this year, 3 days and nights at the Grove. It's, let's say, for those who know what it is, you'll have seen it online. For those who don't, it's an immersive 3-day experience. It's limited to 40, 50 leaders only. So it's not a huge conference, and therefore there's no hiding place. You're challenged. You have to take part in pressure rooms. You go whitewater rafting. You have to do all your self-awareness, and you open yourself up to feedback. It's not for the faint-hearted at times, but if you've got a growth mindset, it can be an amazing thing. So first of all, like, why did you decide to go, and what was your expectations?
So the why is really easy because, I'd been in touch 2 or 3 times over the last 3 years. Yet need to be there, want to get there, couldn't quite get there. But it was the Steve Peters, Rich Davini that year, and I was kicking myself at those keynote speakers and not being able to be sat in the room listening to that. I think I'd just read Chimp Paradox actually, on the back of listening to you guys, and just knowing that those are the people, trying to understand what makes people tick. Why do I think I'm not at that level when my peer group are saying, well, actually, you're doing a good job, you're okay at what you do. So I was trying to understand myself more, and that was the driver. Then employment in the university, it wasn't a program they wanted to support at this moment in time. Higher education's in, struggling a little bit, isn't it, as a business model. So the funding side of it was never going to come from there. So in the end, this year, it was I'm just going to go and do it myself. It very selfishly, a lot of this, the purpose of the retreat was personal development.
Yeah.
Understanding myself better.
So let me jump straight into that then. You've done a lot in your time, but having gone to the retreat and come away, if I was to push you and say, okay, so what were the aspects that really stood out for you, and what did you learn about yourself? I mean, because, I won't reveal your age, Paul, but we're getting close to 50. You might be almost there, right?
It might ticked over.
But the point being is, we've lived a lot of life. Sometimes people say, well, why should I go to this? What can I learn at 40, 50, 55 years old that I don't already know. But what did you learn?
Well, every day is a school day. Yeah, you've got to have that mindset. Every day is a school day. We always learn something. I just wanted to push myself out there. I think reflection internally for me, there's a bit of imposter syndrome that I carry. That doesn't mean I'm the best in the world, but I'm good. I can do a good job. That's how I see it. It's really simple. Boil it down to simple stuff. And I just wanted to put myself in a room full of the retreat attracts significant industry leaders across many different industries. And I just wanted to be in that room and say, am I different to these people? Because the story I tell I've got two boys, 14 and 12. And, they're at that age where school pressures are hard. And as a parent, you tell them you keep everything open. You can go and do anything you want in life. So I say to them really simply, Elon Musk puts his trousers on the same way I put my trousers on every day. So if Elon Musk can get there, so can you.
I love that.
Right? And I don't know if it lands with them. They're probably just,
Probably go, who's Elon Musk? That?
yeah, they're not interested. But it's that mindset of that's just another human being, same as me. Elon's probably miles cleverer than I am. But the principle is, it's there to be had. We can all go and get there if we put a bit of drive, focus, and determination in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. And do you know what you said there? You won't mind me saying there's a you might know him actually, Callum Preston, who runs Zenith Development. So Callum came on the retreat a few years ago. He's the founder and MD of a very fast growing construction business. He's doing incredibly well. But he's a lad from the council estate in Yorkshire as well. And he said the same. He went, I want to go just to see where I'm at compared to everybody else. And after 3 days, what you find out is you look at these people who you build incredible relationships with, who are running multi-million-pound turnover businesses, whether it's in the software industry or the financial sector or whatever it might be. And you go in, we're very similar. And they have the same worries I have, and they have the same insecurities I have, and the same blind spots, right? But they're obviously doing well, and they're in a position that they're in. And so it gives you perspective and hope, I think, sometimes, that you go, do you know what? I'm not too dissimilar, and I can do this. And a lot of people go away from the retreat going, no, I've got this, and I belong to be amongst these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you learn a lot from those people. Surround yourself with people that make you a better person.
Yeah.
That's, and I've carried that for probably 10 years now.
So what was the hardest part of the retreat for you? The hardest segment or task or situation that you was put in?
I think it was, that's a difficult question because I didn't find it hard. It's so engaging. It draws you in.
Was the moment then that though that the pressure, or you was pushed a little bit where you was like, right, okay, I'm feeling healthily out of my comfort zone here?
The pressure rooms,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you which one it was. We did very well at the. Can we talk?
Yeah,
about
of course
which
we can.
gate
Yeah,
on which So the IKEA flat pack one was good. Smashed that. The carrying the big ball with the ropes. I spent hours reanalyzing how some team got like 32 seconds, and we thought we did well at 4 minutes or something like that.
How did they do that?
How did they do it? But I think I got there in the end. But it was the coloured block, folding it out.
Yeah.
And I remember on the day you said to me, well, if you're in construction, you might find this really easy. And it blew my mind.
Well, that's what we do on the pressure rooms. We know what professions you're all in, so we're slightly going around, and I'm saying things to put pressure on you. So the minute your team look at you and go, well, this guy ran a construction company, this is about construction, we'll just leave it to him. All of a sudden, you're under an enormous amount of pressure. I mean,
Yeah.
So it is designed to do that. But the pressure rooms are interesting because, yes, they're fun and it's about teamwork and it's about coming together. But it's also about testing you in a safe environment, because I'm a massive fan of kinesthetic learning. Like, if we just had you in a classroom doing theories of leadership and all the rest of it, it's great. But getting you out there and going, right, 20 minutes, challenge, with strangers, go.
Yeah.
There's nothing more like testing that where your attributes and your characteristics come to the fore than in an environment like that. So I think what we try and do on the retreat with the rafting on day 2, etc., is get you out there and get you doing stuff as well as learning and absorbing information. So hopefully the balance was a good balance for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the rafting. What was interesting with the rafting, you see people's personalities sort of come to the fore once you get past day 1 and into day 2. And it was really interesting to see that everybody, you had to jump in and do the swim test. and nobody had a second thought about it. They were just in and doing it because everybody wanted to get on and go and do it.
And believe it or not, there were some people doing that swim test, taking part in whitewater rafting, who were scared of water.
Exactly.
And they had to declare this as they come to the retreat. So we know the people who are pushing themselves massively. Somebody like you's walking down there in your wetsuit going, exhilarating, can't wait to get stuck into this. But there's other people who are petrified, and I mean petrified. And so for them, one of the big wins of the retreat is that they've overcome a fear. They've pushed themselves beyond their comfort zone because there was accountability in the group to do it. And they've come out the other end of it going, that ain't so bad.
Yeah.
They've diminished a fear through pushing through that boundary, if you like. And that's a life moment for them. Some people have actually said to us it's a life moment, whereas for others it's like, what a great day. everything I wanted and more.
Yeah.
So in general then, how did the retreat differ for you than any other conference or thing you've been on? What was the main sort of uniqueness or difference for you?
I think it was the 3-day sort of package, like you just said about other leadership courses. You maybe turn up for a day and it's quite theory driven and it's a bit dry.
But it's interesting you say this, Paul, because we often review whether it's too long or whether 2 days would be too short. 4 days would probably be too long because I think we were all knackered by the end of it. weren't we?
Yeah.
So do you think that 3 days and nights is enough for it to be immersive, but it's not too long?
Yeah, absolutely. Day one's everyone finding out a bit about each other and the groups you're in, and that's beneficial in itself. Who am I sat next to? Who's in my group? What do they do? And just, seeing those personalities come out. But 3 days was perfect. I put this in my notes actually. One day on a leadership course over a 5-week period. You come for the day, then you switch off. You're back in work mode. You probably park what you've been doing. Whereas the 3-day was just it's all there. It's packaged up, but it's dynamic. So it's not dry and dragging out. There's some real sort of dynamic in that, the way it's put together. So you're in doing this bit for 10, 15 minutes or an hour, then you're off and you're doing something else. And it's fragmented really well so that you're switching from thinking about this to doing something else, looking at your own.
I mean, that's by design. We want to switch you from kinesthetic to auditory to visual learning. We want to keep you moving. We want your energy to spike and then crash and then spike and then crash. That autonomic nervous system needs to be going up and down all day long, which is why at the end of each day, if we let you go back to your room for 2 or 3 hours, you'd probably be absolutely knackered and fall asleep. So we say to you, 50-minute shower back down for the evening speakers. You don't stop. But I bet when you got home, you was absolutely wiped, exhausted, right?
Yeah.
Mentally and physically.
Yeah, but it's just 3 days of it's intense, isn't it?
It is intense, yeah.
But it's intense in the right way, and you don't have that time to stop and drop too low where you're just happy to put your feet up. You're ready, that, like you said, that 50-minute break, that was just enough, because then you're straight back down. You've got the keynotes on the evening, and
how did you find the evenings with the guest speakers? What we pride ourselves on is world-class speakers. I know you missed the year you really wanted with Davini. Who was it? Davini and Brailsford.
yes,
Yeah. But you've obviously... Oh, no, Steve Peters, you said,
Steve
didn't you?
Peters, yeah.
But we had some really good speakers last year. Professor Damien Hughes on the final night, I interviewed him on stage. We had Dr. Julie Smith on night 1 around self-awareness. I thought night 2 was fantastic with Sabrina and Mike. We had 2 speakers, Mike Bates, former intelligence officer, and Sabrina Cohen-Hatton, chief fire officer. How did you... Because we try and mix them up so they're all different.
Yeah, so the bar was high after the year that I didn't get there for me. But, sitting there and just listening to those people and the experiences and the knowledge that they have, for me, it was different level. Even this year, I thought it was going to be hard to beat. But Julia Smith, fantastic. Sabrina, Damien, you could just listen to them for hours, right? You could sit there and just keep talking, telling me all these stories that you've got and the way you've gone through your professional career. The one that hit home for me was Mike Bates.
Yeah,
absolutely nailed it for me. Great guy. Some very similar life experiences that I could... Very relatable with Mike. But I could have just sat and talked to him as a mate down the pub, because the way that he views life and how he goes about things now, fantastic. Build the wall of evidence. I remember that. It just sticks, right? Do hard things.
What you're quite good at, Paul, is retention of information. So on this podcast, you've already repeated numerous things you've taken away from either my book, myself, T2, whatever it might be, and some of it's 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So not everybody has that ability. A lot of people go on stuff and you get lots of information, but you retain very little. There's an art to retaining information, whether it's note taking, whether it's reflection, but you clearly do it because there's you're picking the nuggets out that are useful for you. And would you say for anybody attending the retreat in the future that that's important because they're going to get a lot of the 3 days and they ain't going to retain it all, but it's about making the effort to receive, compartmentalize, and retain the information that you can use that's useful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're bombarded with information, partway through that journey, you've got to go at it with the mindset of what am I trying to get out of this? And like I said at the beginning, it was a little bit selfishly personal for me. That's why I was there. I wanted to see what the peer group in the room was like. Am I any different? Should I be there? Should I not be there? But yeah, just hold on to those bits, the bits that stick.
Yeah.
Build the wall of evidence was the key one from Mike, and do hard things and be better.
Yeah.
Be a better person. I'm looking at myself now at that 50-ish age, and I want to be a better person.
Yeah.
I want my children are of an age where they're probably looking at dad now where they'll be judging dad, not rather than dad's just their superhero. They're looking at him going, "Oh, well, I thought you was like that, but you could be better." So I want to just give that better portray that better sort of way of looking at things in life.
Yeah, and that's a growth mindset. One of the things, although I'm running the retreat and delivering, one of the things that has significantly impacted me since was when I was interviewing Damien on the stage. He gave a couple of book recommendations. One of them was Manhood.
I've bought it already.
Have you bought it? Yes. So I bought it. I'm about halfway through it, and as a father of a son, it's you always think you're doing it right or you're trying to get it right, but there's some bits in that in Manhood, and it's by Steve Biddulph. If you're interested in the book, he also wrote a book called Raising Boys, and he's looking at what it means to be a man and how masculinity has been skewed over the years and what's really important for young boys and young men to have in their lives. And it's really opened my eyes. And that's so I've gone to the retreat, I've delivered it. It's not primarily for me, but I'm learning myself throughout. I then get one book tip from a guest. I go and buy it, and so the learning afterwards, as a result of the tips you get and the people you meet, is continuous.
Yeah.
And so you have to let me know when you get to the end of Manhood, because I think it's a great book. I love the way Steve Biddulph writes. I might get some of his other bits. Okay, final question then, Paul, because I've loved speaking to you, and I think we could probably do hours, and Amy will be looking at me in the background going like this. So how far on are we now? It was May, wasn't it? June. How far on from the retreat are we now? A month?
Yeah, it's
2
beginning
months?
of May, wasn't it? So yeah.
Nearly 2 months, let's say. 2 months on. What's your one thing that you think you've taken away and that has made you, I know you've just said it yourself and it's a big question, but has made you a better person or a better leader? What's the one thing that will stick with you that you think you got from it?
It gave me reassurance that I'm capable of being in at that level. It allowed me to understand that people probably do see me as a leader in the role that I'm in and respect that, whereas I'll probably challenge it every day of the week. So it's that self-reassurance, I suppose, that I've taken away, that be more positive about it. People will listen to you because the credibility is there, not by the title and how you're seen in the environment, but what you do on a day-to-day basis and how you talk to people.
Being your authentic self. We had a chat at the bar on last night, I think it was, and we revisited, didn't we, and talked about the business and where you'd come from. And I think you said something, you won't mind me sharing, something along the lines of, that if I'd have just been a bit more assertive, if I'd have just called people out, if I'd have just been a bit more, what's the word, aggressive with underperformance or with issues, then And I said to you, but Paul, that's not your nature. To go around reprimanding everybody and hitting with a big stick is not your nature. And I don't think that that experience should tell you that you should be. What we should do is go, right, be the best version of you, be the authentic you, because you can still do that,
Yeah.
but being Paul Tennison.
Yeah.
And I think that was a bit of a moment, wasn't it? Because it was like, I don't have to put on this crack the whip and be something I'm not.
Mm.
I can still call things out in my way. I can still speak to human beings in my way and still drive an outcome. And I think that was there was a moment that I sort of had with you on the last evening.
Yeah. But and that all boils back to, you know, coming out of that business, and for a fair period of time, just reflecting on it and why did it do this? What happened? What should I have done? A million questions, and it just took a bit of time. It takes time to process that, doesn't it?
So you're going to get the last question that every guest will get on the podcast moving forward. We talk about leadership a lot. You've been on the leadership retreat. You've worked with us now for a while. But I'm interested, who is the greatest leader you've ever experienced or worked for, and why?
So I professionally, I'm gonna have to say that this is my second spell at Hull University, by the way. So I was there 10 odd years ago, and my then director of estates, David Thompson, great guy. I was a lot younger then, so I was young 30s, but I was just heading into my professional career, and he was the guy that firstly believed in me, trusted me to get on and do the job, but also gave me enough space to go out and develop as a professional. You know, talking multi-million-pound refurbishment projects, but gave me enough space to go and deliver it, but knew that I could go to him. I knew that I could go to him as well if things weren't going so well. And he rids me about everything, you know, the usual scenario. I've not had a shave today. There was all that relationship was built just on that openness and that trust.
It's an interesting one you say, because it's such an important quality in leadership, that, isn't it? Those leaders who find that middle ground between assertive and supportive. So they go, look, my expectation is that you deliver. I'm going to hold you to account and check and verify, but I ain't going to babysit you. There's the empowerment. There's the space, as you just called it. I'm here to support you if you need me. And so when leaders find that balance between supportive and assertive, and what I mean by that is the expectation is there to deliver, standards are expected, and there'll be a check and verify process. However, I'm not going to micromanage you. You are free to deliver it, and I'm here if you need my support. There's a little sweet spot there, I think, for many leaders that is hard to get to, because some control freaks want to be overly assertive and you don't have any space. And some people don't want to do any work, so they just empower you. And even if things are going wrong, they don't lean in or step in. The sweet spot's probably the middle ground. It sounds like David Thompson, you know, found that with you.
100%. And for me, in my young 30s, I'd just finished my degree then, because I was late going back to university to do my degree. That professional development phase of my life just, you know, went through the roof by having that trust and that ability to just get on with it and go and deliver things. But if there was a problem, I knew I had a soundboard to go back and check things with.
Love it. I could talk to you all day, but I think we're just about on time. Thank you for coming today, Paul. To say it's your first podcast, I think you've done remarkably well. More than remarkably well. I think you're a bit of a natural at it, so I think we should maybe invite you back and do a little bit more, don't you? Paul Tennison, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
And we'll be back shortly with another People Performance podcast.